Hello and welcome. In this video, we will be presenting a workthrough of some of the changes you'll be seeing in your 2018 Comprehensive Continuous Improvement Plan, or the CCIP for short. Hello, my name is David Cloud, and I'm a consultant here in federal programs with the Ohio Department of Education, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jessica Stanley, who is a federal programs consultant here at ODE as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Stanley, and as David mentioned, I am a consultant here in the Office of Federal Programs at ODE. Our department has made some necessary changes to the CCIP. These include modifications on the planning side, major changes to some of the budget details pages, as well as the addition of new pages created to meet the requirements of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA.
We may not be able to discuss all of the changes to the 2018 CCIP in this video, but we plan to include in a subsequent video any of the changes that time will not allow us to cover in this one. Here's what we're going to try to walk you through. We're going to talk about the planning tool and some of the changes that are occurring there, as well as the funding side of the application, where the majority of the changes take place. We're going to look at the sections page, where you'll see quite a few pages that have been added. We're going to look at Title I specifically and look at all the changes that have been made to the existing pages, as well as the addition of pages, and as well as Title IIA. We're going to look at a new Title IV grant and some of the changes, a quick overview of some of the changes to the budget details pages with some of the other grants.
Okay, let's get started where we should always start, and that is in the planning tool. On the left of your CCIP application, you'll see a link that says Planning. In the Fly Out menu, select Planning Tool. Click on District/Agency. And as you can see, there are two components that have been removed. That includes the Highly Qualified Teacher component, which will be updated at a later date to include teacher equity data, and the LEP Improvement component. If you select the District Improvement component, you will see that there are now 5 required items. The 6th one included watch district only, and that is where you had to plan to address achievement gaps for subgroups. That has been removed. And right now we are going to be moving to the sections page to go over the new updated items. So now we are going to be looking at some of the changes that are on the sections page. There have been a few updates that we would like to go over with you today. If you look under Title I Improving Basic Programs, there have been 3 new items. This includes a school-wide waiver request, supplemental planning questions, and supplement not supplant. Under Title IIA, there has been a name change to include supporting effective instruction. Title III is no longer LEP. It is language instruction for English learners, and the new Title IV grant that includes student support and academic enrichment. There has also been changes to the assurances and the ODE consultant checklist as well. But right now, let's take a look at more detail on the Title I budget details page. So if you take a look at the Title I budget details page, there have been some improvements to this section. If you scroll down to the delivery methods, there have been a number of items updated. This includes English learner, enriched curriculum, other non-academic supports, transition services for neglected and delinquent students, gifted service, behavior intervention, dual or concurrent enrollment, and career tech. If you are selecting preschool as a delivery method, you will see a text box where you will need to describe the program design. If you are selecting the non-academic supports, you will need to describe the services provided with alignment to the improvement plan. And please be sure to include the needs of the students that each of the non-academic supports will address. If you scroll down to the non-public section for delivery methods, you'll see a new addition for non-academic supports. And scroll down to professional development purchase services. There have been a new addition of coach for the non-public. Further down the page, you will see that the ESEA flexibility set-aside requirement and summary have been removed. And the last new item is the Head Start compliance where you will need to check if the district certifies that compliance with the performance standards of Head Start to support your preschool program. So now we will take a look at the updates on the Title I set-asides page.
Okay, as we move on to the Title I set-asides page, the first thing you'll notice when you get to the page is that it has been totally redesigned. In the past, the set-asides were determined before the non-public PPA was calculated. Now, under ESSA, the non-public service amount will be calculated through the PPA before the set-asides are determined. So this number will populate within the CCIP from the budget PPA page where your school allocation is. Also, if you have any set aside for non-public parent engagement, again, if you have a grant of over $500,000, you're required to set aside at least 1% for parent engagement, and then you also need to determine the amount of equitable services for the non-public. You're still allowed to set aside administrative. We have a place for transportation and homeless. Now you are allowed to set aside more than one PPA if you want, as well as a set aside for foster care. And then we still have the two places for other set asides. And then these still look the same, the building allocations, the allocation amounts, the PPA. This is where it's determined if you have a 100% factor, which is that all your schools meet the eligibility of over 35% poverty. If you don't have over 35%, if you're serving because of the district percentage, you have a school above the district percentage but below 35, this will be figured at 125%. Again, with the new ESSA rule for the homeless and the foster, we have two new boxes here, so that if you decide to set aside more than one PPA for the homeless or for foster care, we're going to ask for your rationale as to how you determined that you needed to do those set-asides. All right, now let's go back to the sections page, and we're going to take a look at some of the new pages that we're going to look at. We're going to start with the school-wide waiver request. If you click on the school-wide waiver request from the sections page, when it opens, you'll notice that this is totally new, and we're allowed under ESSA, I mean the state of Ohio, allowed to, if you have a rationale, we can now allow school-wide buildings that are under 40% if the rationale is there. The two main determining factors will be, one, the school has to meet at least being able to be served with title funds, and that is either 35% or greater than the district average. The other caveat that we have here is that schools that want to become school-wide cannot have received a D or an F in the economically disadvantaged subgroup category from the most recent report card. If you decide that you want to use this waiver, you'll need to enter your justification here as to why you feel the need for the school that you want to become school-wide new to become school-wide new. You'll fill this out, it'll be approved by the consultant, and then you will list your school-wide new on the building eligibility page. Okay, now let's go back to the sections page, and we're going to take a look at the supplemental planning questions.
So once you click on the supplemental planning questions, you will see a list of 10 questions. There was a CCIP note number 373 that was released on April 7th that included a link with a crosswalk to these 10 supplemental planning questions You can copy and paste your responses into the text boxes in your CCIP application. In addition, you will need to reference the research-based strategies in your responses. And right now, we'll be moving towards the new update for supplement, not supplant.
On the supplement, not supplant page, on this page, you're going to tell us at the ODE, the federal programs, which method you have determined that you are supplementing and not supplanting the Title I funds that you're using in your district. You're going to have two choices here of ways that you can determine that. So if you need more information, click on this Here button down at the bottom, and it opens a page that we sent out earlier in the year, and it describes what we're looking for with a supplement, not supplant. And also, if you see this little blue word here, it's underlined. When you click on that, it takes you to even more detailed information from the U.S. Department of Education that explains why we're doing it and what they're looking for as well. So when you go through this, make certain that you use one of these methods and determine which one is best effective for your school to show that it's supplement, not supplant. Okay, let's go back to the sections page, and we'll take a closer look at some of the other items on this page as well.
So now we're going to take a look at some minor changes under the Title I-C migrant grant under the budget details page. If you take a look at the core areas, there's been a new addition to include credit recovery and credit accrual. At the very bottom, scroll down, there's a text box, the very last one, where you will need to explain the needs of the migrant students from preschool to youth and the expected outcomes for these students. And now we're going to take a look back at the sections page and the changes for the Title II-A grant.
On the Title II-A budget details page, you'll notice there are a couple of items that have been added here at the top, and these items are just to help direct your thought process as to where you should be focusing your attention for your Title II-A funds. We still have the section here where you can use class size reduction with Title II-A, but now, this is new, we're asking for your rationale, how you determined what grade level and subject areas you would use class size reduction for, and how you expect this to improve your student achievement. We have a spot here for a PD coach. We now have a place you can have a PD coach with Title II-A and non-public funds. And remember, whatever area you're directing your funds, you need to make certain that you check the box that corresponds with the program that you're going to use, even in the non-public. If you're using a certain area in non-public, we want to see that as well. As you scroll on down toward the bottom, there have been a couple of little changes here. Nothing major, just giving you more options. And the biggest thing to note here is that we no longer have the hold harmless amount, and we're also not using your last year's professional development expenditures to determine the non-public service amount. This is going to be a straight PPA calculation that uses the non-public enrollment and the public enrollment. So if you go on your help screen, when you get to this page, it will give you the exact formula that is used to determine that amount, and the CCIP will do that for you. You won't need to do that. Last year, we had a box on the 2A budget details page that asks you to tell us how you're using your Title II funds that were through the waiver. We no longer have the waiver in place, but we still want to know how you're going to use your funds for professional development. And as always, we ask you to explain what you're doing with your supplies, and your capital outlay. Okay, let's go back to the sections page and take a look at the last remaining grants that are in order there.
So if you click on the Title III Budget Details page, the majority of the changes here include the verbiage. So please read carefully so you know how to direct your Title III funds. And now we'll be moving back towards the sections page to review the Title IV grant that most of you have been curious about.
Okay, on the Title IV budget details page, first of all, let me say the state has not yet determined whether it's going to be a competitive grant or an allocated formula grant, and we also don't know yet the exact amount that we will be able to provide for districts. But in the meantime, what we are going to require is a comprehensive needs assessment that will specifically talk about some of the non-academic needs of your students, because that's what basically this grant is going to be focused on. There are some instructional needs, but there are a lot more areas that are directed toward a well-rounded education for your students. So as you scroll down through here, I ask you to go before you start your needs assessment and see some of the areas that we are recommending you to focus on. There are a lot of great areas to help the students in your districts with non-academic problems or areas. So just take a look at this, then sit down with your district leadership, building leadership teams, and then determine how this grant money could best help your students. Okay, we're back to the sections page for a last time here, and as you scroll on down, we have had some new changes to, well, let me start with contacts first. There are going to be some contact changes. You're going to be required now to do a foster contact as well as your homeless contact. And again, you're going to need to have an educated youth liaison here. So that will be the person that you have to have determined by your district, and the OEDSR person will fill those in. So, and the assurances, there are some updated assurances. I ask that everyone read these carefully, because when you submit your CCIP, you're basically saying that I read these and I agree to them. So we advise you to read them carefully. There's nothing in there that really hasn't been in the past years, but please read them to understand what you're agreeing to. And we always ask that you check your ODE consultant checklist when you first submit your CCIP at the beginning of the new fiscal year. This is where your consultant will make some notes, and there'll be some areas that they want you to take a look at and maybe adjust. So there have been some changes here to this page as well. So Jessica and I hope you had gained some information and knowledge from this video. If you have any questions about any of these areas, please contact your consultant. If you need to know how to look up your consultant, it will be on your opening page of your CCIP grant. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you, everyone.